When I think of the holidays, I think of being with my family. I think of happiness and joy and just celebrating what we've done throughout the year. I also think about, as a small business owner, how crazy and hectic it is, how so many things can fall through the cracks, so many details can get lost in the mix. It's a lot. One thing is certain, though. During the holiday season, scammers are out in force. Whether they're trying to get our debit card over the phone or email so that they can get us to the top of Google, or if it's someone that we've been working with for quite a while that knows that we're spread thin so they can take advantage. Today, we're going to be talking about just that with my good friend Patrick McClellan from GetSwipe.io. You're definitely going to want to pay attention to this because you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table that you can put towards your marketing for 2022. Here we go. I wanted to bring you on because I feel like some of them might be missing an opportunity to save quite a bit when it comes to accepting credit cards. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you offer with GetSwipe?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really starts with doing an analysis of your current processing statement. So we typically like to take a look at 2 to 3 recent statements, and we can put together an analysis to see what those potential savings look like. We go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, line item by line item, to see exactly where there may be some sort of overcharging, surcharging, billing errors, really anything that we kind of deem to just be excess payments just for accepting debit and credit cards from your customers.
So let's say that, I have a new brick and mortar store. I just opened a pop-up shop, a kiosk, something like that. I'm accepting credit cards and I start working with you. So I have to send you those statements that you said. Do I have to pay to get started?
Absolutely not. Nope. It is a completely free analysis.
So, Patrick, one question that probably a lot of people watching have: how do I know that I'm paying a fair credit card processing rate?
That is a great question, and obviously the main one that we get as well. But we really want to take a look at the total fees that you're paying versus the total amount of sales that you process during that given month. And that's going to give you the overall picture as to what your effective processing rate would be. If you're at around 2% to 2.5%, you're probably in a good spot. Anything above that, there's probably some overcharging occurring. And it's always a good thing to maybe call your processor to see where these overcharges may be occurring. But yeah, definitely you want to take a look at your processing statement and just look at every line item to see if you can find some areas for improvement.
I'm a business owner and I'm thinking about where in the holidays I am stretched thin. I've got family, I've got business, I've got all these things going on 24 hours in a day. And I probably don't have the same attention to detail that you would have looking at a statement. So I could just send you a statement, your team, you could look through and say, hey, here are some areas where we find room for improvement.
Absolutely. So because merchant services is a back end expense, the statements don't become readily available. Sometimes the processor does email them or emails them physically, but typically those emails are just deleted or the mail is just thrown in the trash. We typically like to, again, if we're able to take a look at that processing statement, we're able to go through everything line item by line item to showcase what those potential savings may be. And these processors, they don't make it easy for these merchants to understand their statements as well. It's almost like it's in a different language or it's in hieroglyphics, and they do this on purpose. It's their way of hiding fees and adding in unnecessary charges.
What if I've been selling for a month, 2 months, or maybe they adjusted my rates and increased them many months ago? How does it work with GetSwipe? How can you help me there?
Yeah, so we can backtrack and obtain refunds for these types of overcharges as well. We've had success in going back as far as 12 months to obtain refunds for these types of overcharges, or sometimes the process is called billing errors.
Okay, here's a big one, Patrick. With the holidays, of course, people are buying gifts, they're buying presents for people, they're kind of going out in bursts and just buying a whole bunch of stuff. But then there's going to be those returns and refunds. How does that affect my merchant fees?
So there are a lot of processors out there that are charging for both the transaction of the sale as well as the refund. So you're getting double charged. It's very important to understand that with your processor to see exactly what they're charging and to see if they can be adjusted.
Okay, Patrick. So I just walked into a local gas station. I'm here in, kind of rural suburban New Hampshire, and they had a little sign out that said, "Hey, we have a cash discount." I've been seeing that quite often. It's become more common, more popular. Should retailers be offering a cash discount or passing the merchant fees on to the customer if they use a credit card?
Yeah, Brian. So the cash discount and surcharging programs are definitely becoming more popular in the payment industry and for merchants, especially in a retail setting. It's a very gray area as it's not completely legal in all 50 states. But what we've typically seen is that when businesses do switch over to this cash discounting program or some type of surcharging, the customers are seeing an extra line item on their receipt just for the convenience of using their debit or credit card. And obviously, no one's going to be happy about that. So they'll typically, make a complaint, leave a Yelp review. And so it's always my suggestion to not offer this type of program.
So what you're telling me too is even though that cash discount may seem like, okay, we're saving a little bit on the merchant fees, you're actually kind of adding this imposition to the customer. And as a result, it could reflect poorly on your business.
Exactly. And that's what we've seen from retailers, that when they do switch to the cash discounting program, saying, hey, if you pay cash instead of a card, we'll offer you a lesser price for our product or service. But we've seen that after doing that for a couple of months, they go right back to the normal merchant service program of paying, the normal rates and the fees just because they may have upset a few customers.
So I got a question for you too. Whenever we've ever talked to one of our clients, because we're looking, again, we're trying to build a bigger, better biz, and that encompasses the marketing, and encompasses the logistics and the operations, and of course the financials. So when we're dealing with some of our legacy clients, we're looking at how can we help you save money? When we've broached the subject of merchant fees or credit card processing, I know a lot of people kind of catwalk away, right? They're like, "Nah." But I think part of it is they feel like they have to change banks or they have to get new hardware. If they work with GetSwipe.io, do they have to do that?
Absolutely not. Nope. Then that's I guess the bread and butter of GetSwipe is that you don't have to change anything on your end. So the equipment, the processor, any software you may be using, that all stays the absolute same. The only thing that essentially changes is the fees you're going to be paying to your processor, which will be less because of our efforts.
Okay, Patrick, again, holiday season. Listen, what are 3 tips you can give to retailers that are accepting credit cards for the holidays?
Yeah, definitely an important aspect of being a business owner is to understand your finances. Merchant services, although it's not a fun category, it definitely can be important. So the number one tip is to actually take a look at your credit card processing statement. Make sure you are receiving it in some fashion from the processor. It is kind of crazy how many times when I do talk to a business owner that they're not even sure who their processor is. They don't receive any sort of communication with them. So find out who your processor is and just take a look at your statement to see if you're seeing anything kind of out of the ordinary. And again, just by doing that simple math, taking the total fees, dividing it by the total amount of sales to find your overall effective rate. And again, making sure that it isn't over, say, 3%. Anything under that, you should be in a good spot, but there could still be some areas for overcharging. But the most important thing is just to actually sit down and take a look at your statement. Number 2, in a retail setting, is to swipe cards. You want to make sure that you're actually physically swiping the cards. When you're manually entering in those cards, say on your terminal or on your POS system, there are additional surcharges that are attached to keying in those transactions. So it's very important that you actually swipe the cards. Sometimes the machine will not read it at first, but try to figure out a way, whether it's the actual using the magnetic strip on the back of the card or the EMV chip by inserting it into the terminal. But obviously, again, just making sure that everything is swiped. And if you can, if the customer can use a debit card and they can use a PIN number as well, that's going to be the lowest cost when it comes to taking credit and debit card payments. The third is, we get this question asked a lot, is when they're purchasing POS equipment or a terminal is, hey, should I be leasing or should I actually purchase it? And we always say, you want to purchase this outright. It's just to alleviate any additional cost. And once you purchase it, the processor will work with you with their technical support team, just in case something actually does occur. When you lease a piece of equipment, it goes to a leasing company. They're charging outrageous fees, and it's very hard to get in touch with their technical support just in case something does happen. So we always suggest to make sure you're purchasing that equipment. If you're currently leasing it, you're not going to be able to get out of that lease. They have long-term contracts, and it can just end up in nightmare scenarios.
So Patrick, you said that you've been working with GetSwipe for 4 years. You've been in the industry longer than that. With regards to GetSwipe and the clients you've been working with, do you have any success stories you could share for the folks at home?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've helped all sorts of businesses in every industry. We were able to help a multi-location wine distributor. We did a deep dive into their processing for each of their locations, and we just found out that their overall rate was through the roof. We were able to reduce their processing fees by over 35% month over month. We continue to monitor their account to ensure that the processor is not increasing those fees. And again, we've caught them doing this from the 3 years that we've been working with them. We've probably caught their increase about 5 times.
When I'm a business that's working with you, obviously, you said I'm not paying you up front, but how is it working as you're monitoring? Am I paying you a monthly fee to monitor? What's going on?
It's not a flat monthly fee. The only way that we're compensated is based on sharing the savings that we're able to obtain for your business.
What's another one that you have maybe about e-commerce?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get into. My first suggestion is when setting up a new merchant account, whether it is e-commerce or in-store, is to do your research, to see what the best fit is going to be for your business, shop around some rates. But a retailer, again, had to make this transition because of the pandemic, and they wanted to start putting their items online for sale. They announced that they were publishing the website to sell these items, and it erupted. Their sales went through the roof. For whatever reason, they did a great job at marketing, but in turn, because sales are growing, their merchant fees are going to go up as well. Thought they were set up appropriately, and the web designer said, "Hey, you should use these. A lot of my merchants use this gateway and shopping cart." And they had reached out to us and just make sure, saying, "Hey, are we overpaying on these fees? What's going on here? We feel like this is excessively higher than it was when we're taking payments in store." And yes, those payments are higher to take payments on your website, but these fees were astronomical. So we did a deep dive into everything, going line item by line item, and we were able to renegotiate those rates and fees with their current processor much closer to the retail store rates.
And that brings up a good kind of follow-up question. You had mentioned, if I'm accepting payments in store, and like you said, if people are swiping or using the chip, much better than me keying it in at the POS. But you said that there is an increase in the rates if I'm accepting e-commerce payments or if I'm selling my products and services online. Why is that?
Yeah, great question. It's all because of the risk that's associated with that given card. Like I said before, debit card being the lowest form. Typically, that person using their debit card has a PIN number attached to the card. It belongs to one person, and the money is being taken directly out of their account, and it's a face-to-face payment. Very low risk means very low rate. Then you have all of the other, the rates start to increase when you get into credit cards with different rewards attached to them. Let's say flyer miles, cash back, whatever, when you have 1.5x, 2x cash back points, those fees start to increase as well. Unfortunately, it's not going to be Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express that are paying for those rewards. That's where they put them on the merchant.
And Patrick, just again, can you tell them what they would need if they wanted to get started with you?
Yeah, so it's a really simple process. It's essentially, we want to take a look at 2 to 3 recent processing statements, and within a couple of hours, we'll get back to you with that analysis to show what those potential savings look like. And again, you don't have to change anything on your end. Everything stays the absolute same, and it doesn't affect the relationship with your processor as well.
So Patrick, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Folks at home, and all of the members of the Bigger Better Biz community. You can learn more about what Patrick and his team are doing at GetSwipe.io.